YouTube, Chelsea, the reading outlaw, here to do a video for you guys. First things first, no more book mountain. I have shelves again. They are beautiful. This time they are all matching. They are black, as you can obviously, as you can tell. But I'm so glad to have shelves again. Everything is put back. These ones are actually a little bit, excuse me, wider than the ones that they replaced. So I was actually able to get more books per shelf. So I actually even have a little bit of extra room, which is the first time in forever that that's happened. I don't anticipate it will be lasting for very long, knowing myself, but it's still there and it's still really exciting. So yay for new bookshelves. As you guys probably guessed from the title of this video, this is my October TBR. I know the thumbnail made it look like I was only going to read one book in October, but that's not the case. It's just one physical book, so we'll go ahead and talk about that one first. I've already mentioned it if you watched my most recent Friday reads. This is Hex by Thomas Old-Hoyvelt. This is a book about a small town, Black Rock Point, I believe it's what it's called. Black Spring, damn it. By the time I finish the book, I'm going to remember the name of the town. Black Spring that is haunted by a witch who has her mouth and her eyes sewn shut, which is why I really like the kind of sewn detail on the front cover. And it is about the members of this town who are kind of used to the witch. She is a fixture of their town and their lives. But when a new person moves into town, that person is not allowed to leave, one, and two, then has to kind of become acclimated to the presence of this witch. I'm just shy of about 100 pages into it, and it's going really well. The new family that just moved in just saw the witch for the first time, and so they are about to be told by the town that they are now apparently not allowed to leave, ever. So, to protect kind of the secret of this town. So far, it's a little spooky if, like, witches and the concept of people with, like, sewn shut eyes and mouths is, like, really gonna bother you, then it's gonna be really scary. But so far, it's just more, like, autumnally creepy, which I enjoy. There's lots of different levels of horror in my TBR this month. I was hoping this one would be a little scarier, but it's a little bit of a chunky book, so it still has plenty of time to pick up and get more scary. And then we have the digital and the audiobooks that I'm reading. So digitally, I'm reading a whole bunch of things, two of which are really long, one of which is really long. I am reading It by Stephen King. I am buddy reading this with a lovely group of girls whose channels I will link below. This book is like 1,000 pages long. I've never read it. I try every October to read a new Stephen King book. So I am reading It, which is about Pennywise the clown and a group of, I believe there's five boys and a girl, 4 boys and a girl who live in Derry, Maine. I am just to the point of the book where we are kind of learning the backstory of each of the individual kids as they're adults, and they've all been called back to Derry to do something. And it has something to do with Pennywise, who of course is a killer clown, which is always super scary, but is extra super scary right now if you've been watching the news, because bitches be crazy. And I really fucking hate clowns, but I'm really liking the book. It's one of the better Stephen Kings that I've read, so hopefully that continues on. Also digitally, I am reading a couple of short fiction things. I actually just finished the Nightmare magazine for October. This one was super exciting because it was their special issue. The Lightspeed team launches a series called Blank Destroy. So this go around, it was people of color. Before they've done women and queers. This is a series I've talked about before. I've mentioned it a couple of different times. This time the magazine was People of Color Destroy Horror, and it was so amazing and so wonderful. I have a full review, story by story review coming at you guys later this week. So that was one that was already on my TBR that I've already managed to check off. But of course, I also have the most recent Uncanny magazine to get to. It's Uncanny magazine number 12. It is their September-October issue. I have not even cracked it open yet. I've been saving it for October, and I'm really excited. If Uncanny magazine is your jam, then tune in this coming up Sunday to Bree's channel, where Bree and Elizabeth from Books and Pieces will be talking to Michi Troda and I believe Damian Michaels. I don't think Lynn is going to be there, but I believe Damian's going to be. I'll link to Bree's announcement video down below. It's going to be so exciting, so go over, check that out. It's a live show, so you can ask questions if you have any for the editors of Uncanny Magazine, the Hugo Award-winning Uncanny Magazine. Also digitally, I am reading A Local Habitation, which is the second October Day novel by Shayna McGuire. I really enjoyed the first one. Apparently they only go up from there, so I'm excited to see what else lies ahead in the series. But yeah, it's only a couple hundred pages, and I'm just really excited to get to it. Lastly, in ebook form, I am reading our next Magical Space Pussycats podcast read, which is Luck in the Shadows by Lynn Fuelling. This is, according to Caitlin, who has, of course, already finished it, a kind of very traditional fantasy novel, although it does definitely have some underlying themes and tones and implications of homosexuality. So I'm just really, really excited to get to it. I read a lot of fantasy, but I haven't read a lot of like traditional fantasy in a very long time. So I'm really excited to get to it. I've read the first chapter, like the prologue, and of course it's confusing as all get out, but I find that that's the case for most fantasy prologues. So I'm not really setting much stock by that. And then lastly, this month is my audiobook category. This is an ambitious category this month. I have a lot of crafting that I need to get done, specifically for Halloween, making Will's Yoda costume, but then also getting into Christmas time. You guys saw a little bit of that in my Friday Reads video, some of the granny squares I'm starting, but audiobooks are my go-to when it comes to crafting. So I have a bunch of horror and Halloween-y audiobooks set up for the month. Thinner by Richard Bachman, who aka Stephen King. This is one of his Bachman novels. It's okay. It's not the best. It's read by Joe Mantegna, which is definitely a redeeming factor. But the book itself is about this man whose wife is giving him a hand job, and he gets distracted and hits this gypsy woman with his car and kills her. And then the gypsy woman's father places a curse on this guy, and he starts to lose a bunch of weight. Like, he was obese when the story started, and then he starts to lose a bunch of weight, and so he goes through this period where, like, he looks really healthy, and he's really glad, but then, like, he keeps losing weight, and I'm about 80% through the book, so now he's at the point where he's, like, 110 pounds, and so he's becoming, like, emaciated, and this thing is clearly going to kill him. It's alright. It's got a lot of, like, xenophobia in it, and anti-Romney, anti-kind of Eastern European language in it, and it just doesn't sit well with me. I always forget that because Stephen King writes about like small town horror, part of small town horror is the horror in people, so you get a lot of like racism and sexism and misogyny, and so there's a lot of that in it too, but it just doesn't quite, it's not quite as blatant. I don't know if it's because it's one of his later books, or I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole different tangent we can go down, but I'm currently almost done with Thinner by Richard Bachman. I'm also reading or listening to The Fever by Megan Abbott. This is a book about a small town in New England and some kind of disease, seizure, syndrome, something is hitting the girls in this town. Nobody really knows why. It's a horror book, but it's more, from what I gather, about hysteria and insanity and paranoia and social structures and all of those things, which I really, really like, but that's a different kind of horror. So I'm really excited to see how this one pans out. So far, it's okay. It's got several different narrators because each chapter is like has sections from different perspectives. There's all kinds of different perspectives going on. And I always really appreciate it when audiobooks do something like that. So far it's working for me. And then I have two more that I want to start. Daughters Unto Devils by Amy Lukovics. I don't really know anything of what this is about other than small farming town haunted house, but that was enough of a sell for me. I found it when I was browsing Overdrive. And then the last book I want to read this month is a nonfiction book called The Witches, Salem 1962 by Stacy Schiff. Stacy Schiff wrote an amazing biography of Cleopatra a couple of years ago that I absolutely adored. And so when I heard that she was writing a book, not only another book, but another book specifically about witches and specifically about witchcraft in Salem, I knew I had to pick it up. I'm really excited to listen to it on audio. I love nonfiction on audio. And since it's October, this seemed like the absolutely perfect month. All right, that is what I'm planning on reading for October. I know we're already a chunk of the way into the month. Let me know down below what you're reading or if you've read any of these. Always, you can leave your comments, questions, concerns. Come find me all over social media. All the links are in the down bar. And of course, until next time, happy reading.